Yeah, and I brought this up because I want, like, if people watch this and they're gonna start with session 0 of like, okay, but why? What is going on different in this game than all the other games on YouTube? A lot of
Mm.
people play Pathfinder, ran Pathfinder campaigns. It was one of the early actual live plays that I watched. People playing adventure paths of Pathfinder, and watching them like stumble through the story, and the game master realizing, okay, this makes no sense. This is my own riff on it, and then like freeforming it of like, oh, that's interesting. The game master took the adventure path and adapted it to the events happening at the table of what would make sense.
Yep.
So what does it even mean to sandbox an adventure path? People at home that have their books having like 4 adventures that they never played, that they would like to play, but they don't have no clue how to go about it. And when you check the internet, it's read the whole book, learn everything first, and then redo everything to fit the players that show up. So are we doing something different, or is that pretty much your approach, Tyler?
No, my approach
Know
is
everything.
my approach is more read the most of these adventures will have like an adventure summary or an adventure outline, and that is sort of that's your elevator pitch. So read that first, and then if you're like, meh, that doesn't sound very interesting, then you move on. If I read like 5 paragraphs that are the PCs do this, then this happens, then X happens, then I'm like, okay, well, why am I even playing through it? You've already told me what's going to happen. And the alternative is they die and they don't get past the second paragraph of 5. So that's probably not a great written one. I'd probably have to do so much work on that it's not even it's not
to
even
keep it
really
exciting,
it, right? But look at the abstract. Okay, it's drawn you in. All right. Let me glance through. Let me see what what obstacles are here. And instead of presenting the obstacles with block text and with this, that, and the other, often the modules will do a pretty good job of having an NPC be a convincing person to to be giving the push. I think Paizo's writers, of which there are a lot, so the quality does vary.
It's like they're like mercenaries, a Paizo writer.
Yes, they are. Yeah, but they generally do a pretty good job of like having the pushes be organic. Of like, this is a character with a lot of money whose family recently died in a dangerous area, and they want you to go. They're going to pay you a lot of money to go over here. And it's like, okay, well, there you go. Presumably, you've created a character. Then the premise is built around you've created a character that is motivated by money, right? And so then you're looking at the motivations. So you're looking at, what are the obstacles? What are the motivations of the player characters, of the NPCs? And then, just marking down stat blocks and the like. And then once you've got all that, then it's basically just, you're playing it out in the setting. The rest is like, where does it take place? And usually, let me pull up one of these, like, they will usually do a solid job of like, where on Galarian does this take place? And then you can find some more information on this. You literally like,
oh, cool,
almost all the time need like this first page, and then all of these like block texts. You can just ignore this. You don't ignore it, but skim through it and then summarize it in your own words. Like make all of this big wall of text maybe 2 sentences. Just just start taking a fucking hatchet to all of this, and then maybe have stat block. Okay, that's nice to have. That's there you go. This is what I'm here for. This
it's like, okay, if the players run into that monster, I know how to make the combat happen,
right?
Exactly. How it's gonna react, what its strengths and weaknesses are, and all of that.
And then what I would do is I would either open this in like D20 SRD or Archives of Nethys, and that way when I scroll down here, boom, I can just control whatever, and I'm right over there, and it takes me no time at all to reach that stat block, right? You can even cut it down yet more and make a simplified stat block and just have like HPAC is like just this little section right here, this tiny little section right here, and then probably don't need the rest of it, right?
Gotcha.
I love this concept of using a module as a setting, and I think to a certain extent, a lot of people when they're playing a module, they have this. It's almost this this insecurity of needing the module to be like it is in the book, right?
Yeah,
and it's interesting because I think that a module, when you're playing it to make the game you're playing more interesting or easier. So having that insecurity can actually, in the end, make the game harder to play, because now you're always second guessing yourself. Oh, is it okay if I change this? Like, am I cheating my players?
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
I play like module X and now I'm doing something different.
Yeah.
And
I think
it's
having this
doubly
freedom is
so.
necessary.
And it's doubly so if you have a player that played the module before. Some players go, "Oh, that's interesting. What this game master is doing was more interesting than the other game master that I played this with 3 months ago." And sometimes players go like, oh, "That's not the story.
That's not what that stat block's supposed to be."
Yeah, that's not how that works.
I had somebody commenting.
I should have found the secret sword by door number 37.
That's only supposed to be a DC 20 perception check. I got it.
We were supposed to go west to the mountains where the enemy is. Like, what?
Oh,
you don't know about the mountains.
Right.
You don't know the secret lair.
Oh god, I got a comment on that Reddit thread that was something like, metagaming is as much part of the game as the Reddit. And I was like, oh my god, be gone with you, knave. I don't even know how to respond to that, man.
When we say metagaming, in my head, I envision a troll shows up. Okay, he can regenerate, because I'm imagining what is the folklore my character might know. What is reasonable to assume. But people say metagaming, they think, well, if I pick those 5 feats, I can do 120 damage each turn.
Right. And then I can, that thing only has 120 health, so I don't need to worry about it at all because I can kill it in a single round.
So the troll is just like, oh, this is not a problem.
Yep.
The troll is diminished into a problem, a hindrance, a resource.
Attacks, as it's often called. And I think Pathfinder players rightfully point out that a lot of the way the modules are designed poorly is... And not even just in Pathfinder, in lots of games, especially 5e, because of the health bloat and the short rest system, is when you have encounters that are just a hit point tax or a spell slot tax, it's really lame. And usually it doesn't even work because it's pretty easy to get all those things back anyways. So,
it's one player's like, okay, I recognize that's a problem. So my guy just has Leomon's tiny hut. Or the Pathfinder equivalent, and be rest in there.
Yes, it's a classic spell. It is in Pathfinder as well.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm losing the thoughts here, but about there was like I talked in the comment section of my previous video, like. I was doing a video response, and one of the comments in the original video said, "We all agreed that the game master read the adventure path and lays out all of these hooks, and we agreed to bite onto the hook and go onto the linear story and enjoy ourselves because it's like a well-cooked meal by a chef, and we're just here to like go along for the ride." And it's like kind of bad manners not to do that. And I was trying to frame it differently of not in-game. In-game, I'm my character. Out of game, before we play, I accept the premise. And if I don't accept the premise, we like can argue of how could we change it to fit. And sometimes it's like, okay, then maybe I'm not a player fit for that game. And or you find players that would agree with the premise instead.
What you said is true to a certain extent, but you also need to watch out on the premise, because some premises are very heavy-handed. I mean, a premise can be anything from, you're making a character that is in this particular noble's court in this particular date. That's a good premise. But if the premise is you're going to be in the noble court, you're going to assassin the king, then you're going to set up a military organization, you're going to take over the kingdom, then you're going to be the bad guys, you're going to invade the other kingdom, right? That is like way too heavy-handed of a game concept.
Right.
I think that you need to have some shackles at the start, otherwise, you can't even really get the game going.
Right.
But after that point, it needs to be like organic. It needs to like flow naturally. You can't really have a too heavy-handed of a
yeah. Speaking of heavy-handed, and I do think that getting started, you will end up doing some more laying down groundwork. But good Lord, dude, this is going on 5 paragraphs of the GM just talking here. That's
even I just read that last sentence. The venture captain collapses means, wait, we cannot save him. Like at no point can we interrupt this whole scene.
Right. But I do like that it starts in media res. That's why one of the reasons I just grabbed this one.
I remember reading one of these, and it just straight up says this guy dies. If they try to revive him, it doesn't work. He's just dead. There's nothing the person can do about it. It's a very common trope.
All the rules of the universe don't work for this situation, for my story to function. Pretty much. All right. Sorry, that was like laying the groundwork for anybody watching and for us before we go into the social contract and all of that.
Right. But yeah, it's kind of interesting, the different the ways they've set that up, because it's not just it is different because they I'm still not the hugest fan of it, but they do set it up as if you different things you do to try to save him give you different information about what he's dying from, even if you can't save him, which is that's an interesting way to do it. Instead of just saying it doesn't work. It doesn't work because it just doesn't. Okay, shut up.
And that's the cool part about using an adventure path, because I want the adventure path to take the heavy lifting off of me as a game master, of creating all of these ways that players can interact with this world.
Right.
Somebody else thought about several solutions the players might think of.
Yeah.
And the players will still think of like a dozen more than that.
Right.
But you have something that you're like, okay, I can just look at this.
Yeah.
And don't have to think about it too much.
And I can, it gives you more room to what's the word? To role play some of the stuff in between, to role play the other things, the other more interesting things, instead of having to sit there and think, God damn it, why wouldn't they be able to revive this guy? Well, I guess they can just revive this guy, and now he's back, and now, okay, well, that could be fine, but, and you're kind of, writing as you go as a GM, in a way.
Absolutely.
Whereas this obviously requires a little bit more prep work, because you have to have read through the thing. You don't want to be reading. You don't want to be playing through it the very first time and then get to a block of text and go, "What the hell? Oh no, I didn't." So when you said, "Look, I don't think you need to memorize the whole thing on the first playthrough," I don't think that's helpful. Even
I think that there's a certain level of every module should be like that.
Right.
Because exactly. I mean, think of a video game. The reason why a lot of people say, "Oh, this video game is like branching storylines." Like, the branching storylines is like you have 3 choices, like a fucking flux.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
You have the good option, the bad option, and the neutral option. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna play like one of these story games and end up like getting in a car and fleeing the area and going to Florida or something like that. That's not gonna happen. But that's because it's simply impossible. The more branching points you put in the story, your work grows exponentially. So you have like 3 points, and then each one of those goes into tree, and then tree. It's a fractal. It's impossible to actually have
exactly
free choice in the game. I mean, you can do it in a module.
Yeah,
and that's why video games like Baldur's Gate 3 are valuable, because they go the extra mile to go through 24 options, or at least 10 options.
Right.
In some cases, they do 3 options or 2 options. But they have several writers thinking about it and adding those in and sharing the load at the table. It's you. It's you and your brain, and you cannot outthink the other 4 brains at the table.
Yep. And you're on the spot too. You know, you can't.
Yes.
The advantage of writing is that it gives us time. That is the attraction to prep, is that I can spend my single brain over many hours, whereas in in game, if I'm sitting here for even minutes, stalling, then people are going to be like, people are just going to keep taking their turns and stuff's going to keep moving, and eventually we're going to go, holy shit, this guy just died in front of us. Quick, let's get out of here before somebody thinks it was us. And then immediately, scene one, we're not even playing the module anymore, right? Which could still be fun, that could still be just the impetus. What module is it? I've selected a few, and we'll get into that in a moment, because I didn't know, we didn't talk about like tone or any of that, so I picked 3 fairly disparate ones.
Let's go. Yeah, good moment to go through the list. What are things we need to know?
Oh, yeah. So
I have not played in forever, guys. It's been a decade.
So I greatly encourage use of auto sheets. They will just make your life way easier.